Lauren, everyone's staying home because of the ice storm. Christmas dinner is canceled. Stay safe. That was the message from my mom, Linda. I stared at my phone, disappointed but understanding. Charlotte winters could be unpredictable, and safety came first. Or so I thought. What I didn't realize was that this simple text would unravel years of deception and change my life forever. My name is Lauren, and I'm 32 years old. I work as an accountant, and up until last Christmas, I believed I was simply the odd one out in my family. The quiet, career-focused sister who didn't quite belong at their loud social gatherings. My younger sister, Emily, was always the golden child, the one who could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. That Christmas morning, I tried to make the best of it. I made myself hot chocolate, put on some holiday movies, and reminded myself that a quiet Christmas wasn't so bad. Then around 3 p.m., I mindlessly scrolled through Instagram, and my heart stopped. There it was, a brand new post from my cousin Chloe. Perfect family Christmas at Emily's. So blessed to have everyone together. Family traditions, Christmas dinner. The photo showed my entire family. My mom, dad, aunts, uncles, cousins, even my grandmother. All gathered around Emily's beautiful dining table. They were smiling, wearing festive sweaters, raising glasses for a toast. They had deliberately excluded me. I stared at the pictures in shock. Through the windows behind them, I saw clear, sunny skies. There was no ice storm. There never had been. My hands trembled as I swiped through more pictures. There was my dad, Richard, carving the turkey. My mom, Linda, arranging her signature Christmas cookies. My little nieces and nephews unwrapping gifts. The ice storm was a lie, a convenient excuse to keep me away. My stomach twisted with nausea. How many times had they done this to me? All those times, they said family events were canceled. Had they really just been happening without me? How long had they been coordinating behind my back, making sure I was never invited, while pretending to care? The next morning, my phone rang. It was my mom, Linda, sounding casual. "Hi, honey. Hope you had a nice, quiet Christmas. We missed you." My hands clenched into fists, the sheer cruelty of her words, the effortless way she lied. This was the moment everything changed. Growing up in our family home, I'd always tried to be the good daughter. I helped my mom with chores, got straight A's, and even gave up my dream of going to art school to study accounting because my parents insisted it was more practical. Meanwhile, my sister Emily could do whatever she wanted. When she dropped out of college to become a yoga instructor, my parents called her brave. When I worked overtime to help them pay off their mortgage, they barely acknowledged it. One memory in particular should have opened my eyes sooner. 3 years ago, my dad, Richard, needed surgery. I took 3 weeks off work to care for him, cooking, cleaning, managing his medications, and driving him to his appointments. Emily, she showed up once, stayed for an hour, took selfies with him for social media, and then left for a yoga retreat. Yet somehow, when my parents retold the story, Emily was the devoted daughter, while I had done the bare minimum. The extended family wasn't any better. At every gathering, my aunts would praise Emily for being such a free spirit, while turning to me with condescending smiles. "When are you going to loosen up and enjoy life, Lauren?" My career accomplishments were boring to them, but Emily's latest yoga adventure in Santorini, that was the highlight of every dinner conversation. I kept convincing myself that it didn't matter. Family is family. They love me in their own way. Even last month, when I spent hours helping my mom prepare for Thanksgiving, she turned around and told everyone Emily had done all the work while I sat around. I swallowed my hurt and kept quiet, just like always. So when Emily announced she'd be hosting Christmas this year, I offered to help with the planning and cooking. She brushed me off. I wanted to be perfect. I should have seen the signs then, but I was still trying so hard to believe in the fiction of our happy family. The truth is, I spent my entire life trying to earn their approval, making excuses for their behavior, pretending not to notice when they left me out of last-minute family gatherings. events that somehow everyone else always knew about. I convinced myself that if I just tried harder, worked longer, gave more, they would finally see me as part of their perfect family picture. "Hi, honey. Hope you had a nice, quiet Christmas. We missed you." Her voice sounded so light, so effortless, like she hadn't just lied to me, like she hadn't deliberately left me out. I looked at my laptop, where Chloe's Instagram post was still open, evidence of their perfect Christmas gathering without me. This was the moment I finally saw the truth. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't going to stay quiet. I gripped my phone tighter, staring at the Instagram photos still open on my laptop, evidence of their perfect family gathering, a celebration I had been deliberately excluded from. "Really?" I finally spoke, keeping my voice steady. "Because Chloe's Instagram shows that everyone had a wonderful time at Emily's house. Everyone except me." The silence on the other end was deafening. I could almost see my mother's face. That familiar expression when she had been caught in a lie, but was already scrambling for an excuse. "Oh well," she stammered. "Emily organized it last minute, and you know how you can be at gatherings. Always so quiet, making everyone uncomfortable. We just thought." "Thought what?" I pressed. "That it would be better to lie to me? To make me spend Christmas alone while pretending everyone else was doing the same?" She sighed, exasperated. "Don't be so dramatic, Lauren. We were just trying to avoid any awkwardness. You know how Emily wanted everything to be perfect." And just like that, the truth hit me like a freight train. This wasn't just about Christmas. All the past canceled events, all the times plans had mysteriously fallen through, the countless family photos on social media I'd stumbled upon later. This wasn't an accident. This was a pattern. "How many times?" I whispered. "How many other gatherings have you lied to me about?" Another long, telling silence. Then came the usual response. "Lauren, you're being oversensitive. This is exactly why." "Why what?" I cut her off. "Why you exclude me? Why you pretend I don't exist unless you need something? Why Emily gets to be the perfect daughter while I'm treated like an inconvenience?" My mother huffed, annoyed. "That's not fair," she protested. "We love you both equally. It's just that Emily puts in the effort to be part of the family. You're always so busy with work." I laughed bitterly. "Busy with work?" I repeated. "You mean busy helping you pay your mortgage? Busy taking care of Dad after his surgery? That kind of busy?" Her tone shifted, turning cold and sharp. "Listen, Lauren, if you're going to act like this, maybe it's better if we give each other some space. Call me when you're ready to be reasonable." And then she hung up. I sat there, phone in hand, as 32 years of memories snapped into focus. Every excuse, every dismissal, every misunderstanding, it hadn't been random. It had all been intentional. I wasn't the problem. I never had been. And that was the moment I stopped making excuses for them. That was the moment I finally saw the truth. Something inside me snapped. I was done being the family doormat. I grabbed my laptop and started typing an email to everyone. My parents, my sister, my aunts, uncles, cousins, every single person who had been at that Christmas dinner. My fingers flew across the keyboard as years of pent-up emotions poured out. "I saw the photos from Christmas dinner," I wrote. "The same dinner I was told was canceled due to an imaginary ice storm. I want you all to know exactly what you did. You didn't just exclude me from a family gathering. You coordinated an elaborate lie to make me spend Christmas alone. To drive the point home, I attached screenshots. My mother's fake, 'Stay home, everyone's doing the same,' text side by side with Chloe's Instagram photos of their celebration. Before I could second guess myself, I hit send. The responses started flooding in almost immediately. Aunt Susan claimed they had simply forgotten to update me about the change in plans. Uncle David insisted I was overreacting. Chloe, the cousin whose post had exposed the truth, quickly deleted all her Christmas photos and sent me a half-hearted message. "Lauren, I don't know why you're making such a big deal out of this. You're just causing unnecessary drama. But the worst response came from Emily, a long, condescending email about how I never put in the effort at family events. I just wanted one perfect holiday, she wrote. Then she had the audacity to claim that excluding me was for my own good because I obviously don't enjoy family gatherings. But it was my parents' reaction that truly proved who they were. Instead of apologizing, they went on the attack. My mother, Linda, started calling family friends, spinning a news story. Lauren's having some kind of emotional breakdown. My father, Richard, sent me a stern email. Respecting family privacy is important. Airing our dirty laundry like this is unacceptable. Then a text from Emily. You've really done it now. Mom's crying. Everyone's upset. And it's all because you couldn't just accept that maybe you're the problem. This is exactly why we didn't want you at Christmas. I felt like I was living in an alternate reality. They had deliberately excluded and lied to me. Yet somehow I was the villain, just for telling the truth. And the more I stood up for myself, the more they twisted the narrative. When I refused to apologize, they escalated. My mother started showing up at my workplace unannounced, causing scenes in the lobby. Emily began posting vague, passive-aggressive social media updates about toxic people and choosing peace over family. My father even threatened to cut me out of his will if I didn't get in line. But here's the thing. I wasn't afraid anymore, because for the first time in my life, I finally understood the truth. This wasn't a loving family trying to protect itself from a difficult member. This was a toxic system desperately trying to control someone who had stopped playing by their rules, and they had no idea what was coming next. My father's threat to cut me out of his will wasn't intimidating. It was confirmation. Confirmation that this wasn't a loving family protecting itself from a difficult daughter. This was a toxic system desperately trying to maintain control over someone who'd finally stopped playing by their rules. I knew then that simply exposing their lies wasn't enough. I needed to break free completely, and they had no idea I was already forming a plan. One that would show them exactly what happens when you push away the one person who had always been there for them. A week after my explosive email, I received a message from Margaret, an old family friend who had once managed my parents' finances. Lauren, I've been seeing what's happening on social media. There's something you need to know. Can we meet? There was something in her words that sent a chill down my spine. I agreed to meet her at a quiet cafe downtown. When I arrived, Margaret looked nervous, her fingers gripping a manila envelope. I've been carrying the guilt of this for years, she said, sliding the envelope across the table. Your father swore me to secrecy, but after seeing how they're treating you, I can't stay quiet anymore. I took a deep breath and opened the envelope. Inside were bank statements and legal documents dating back 15 years. As I scanned through them, my hands began to shake. According to the documents, my grandfather had left me a significant inheritance, nearly $300,000, specifically for my education and future. Money I'd never known existed. Your father was the trustee, Margaret explained quietly. He was supposed to give you access when you turned 25. Instead, he transferred everything into Emily's accounts to fund her lifestyle and her failed business ventures. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. All those years I'd worked overtime to pay for my accounting degree, the student loans I was still paying off, the times I'd helped them with their mortgage, thinking I was doing my part. They had been sitting on my inheritance the whole time, spending it on Emily. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. Is there more? Margaret nodded. Your grandfather also left properties that were meant to be split equally between you and Emily. Your parents sold them all, using the power of attorney they had you sign when you were 18. My stomach dropped. The power of attorney? The one they said was for emergency medical decisions? She nodded again. That single piece of paper had given them complete control over my financial interests. They had systematically robbed me of everything that was meant to secure my future. all while watching me struggle, all while making me feel guilty for not contributing enough to the family. Horsey. But the worst part? The bank statement showed regular transfers labeled as business investments, money taken from my inheritance, to fund Emily's yoga studios, her retreats in Santorini, her luxurious travels, the same adventures my parents had praised her for while criticizing me for having a boring accounting career. I clenched my fists. Why are you telling me this now? I asked, my voice barely steady. Margaret hesitated, then sighed. Because I saw your mother's social media posts. She's painting you as unstable and ungrateful. They're trying to discredit you before you can discover the truth. She looked me in the eyes. Lauren, what they've done isn't just morally wrong. It's illegal. Everything suddenly made sense. Their escalating attempts to paint me as unreasonable. The threats to cut me out of the will when they had already stolen my inheritance. Their desperate need to maintain the illusion that Emily was the successful one, while I was the difficult sister. I carefully packed the documents back into the envelope. My mind was racing. Thank you, Margaret. I know exactly what I need to do now. This wasn't just about a ruined Christmas anymore. This was about years of calculated deception and theft, and I, an accountant with years of experience tracking financial fraud, was uniquely qualified to make them face the consequences. With Margaret's documents in hand, I spent the next week meticulously building my case. Every unauthorized transfer, every misused power of attorney, every fraudulent document, I traced it all. And when I was sure I had enough, I contacted Olivia Carter, a lawyer specializing in estate fraud. She reviewed my findings, then looked up at me, her expression grim. Lauren, this is a clear case of financial exploitation. We can file criminal charges if you want to pursue that route. Yay. I considered my options carefully. Filing a criminal case would destroy my family's reputation, but they had already destroyed our relationship. Still, I wanted to give them one last chance to make things right. So I wrote one final email, a formal request for family meeting, to settle this privately, to see if they had any shred of decency left. They agreed immediately. Of course, they probably thought I was finally crawling back, ready to beg for their acceptance again. They had no idea what was coming. Because when they walked into my apartment that Saturday, waiting for them on the table were 3 folders, one for my mother, Linda, one for my father, Richard, one for my sister, Emily. Inside, a complete record of their fraud and a letter from my lawyer outlining their options. Return every penny they stole, sign a confession admitting to their crimes, or face criminal prosecution. As they arrived, my mother smiled warmly, clearly expecting an apology. Lauren, we're so glad you've come to your senses. I cut her off. I slid the folders across the table. Before anyone says another word, I suggest you read this. The color drained from my father's face. Emily's hand started shaking. And my mother? For the first time in her life, she was speechless. My family jumped at the chance to meet with me. They probably thought they could manipulate me back into line, convince me that I had overreacted, that I was being dramatic. We agreed to meet at my apartment that Saturday. That morning, I arranged 3 folders neatly on my dining table. One for my mother, Linda, one for my father, Richard, one for my sister, Emily. Inside each folder was 1. A complete record of their fraud, bank transfers, property sales, stolen assets. 2. A letter from my lawyer, Olivia Carter, outlining their options, return every remaining penny with interest, sign a confession admitting what they did, or face criminal charges. They arrived smug, clearly expecting an apology from me. As soon as she stepped in, my mother plastered on a warm smile. Lauren, we're so glad you've come to your senses. I cut her off without hesitation. Sliding the folders across the table, I kept my voice steady. Before anyone says another word, I suggest you read these. The color drained from my father's face as he scanned the documents. Emily's hands started shaking. My mother, always one to try and control the situation, forced a laugh. "This is ridiculous. You're trying to blackmail your own family." I tilted my head, a cold smirk forming on my lips. "Blackmail?" I repeated. "No, I'm giving you a choice. Return my inheritance with interest. Admit what you did. Or," I leaned forward, voice unwavering, "I let the police handle it." "Margaret's already agreed to testify," I added. My father's jaw tightened. "Margaret had no right. You had no right," I snapped. "You stole from me for years while watching me struggle. You used my power of attorney to sell property that was rightfully mine. You funded Emily's lifestyle with my inheritance." Emily burst into tears. "I didn't know," she sobbed. "They told me the money was from their savings." I raised an eyebrow. "Don't lie, Emily. The transfers went directly to your accounts. You knew exactly what you were doing." My mother, seeing that guilt wouldn't work, switched tactics. "Lauren, think about what this will do to the family. What will people say?" I laughed, a bitter, humorless sound. "You should have thought about that before stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars from your own daughter." I pushed my chair back and stood up. "You have 48 hours to decide," I said coldly. "Either sign the confession and arrange the transfers, or I go to the police." They left in a panic, my father practically dragging my hysterical mother and sister out the door. Within hours, the family group chat exploded with messages. Relatives taking their side, of course, but I didn't engage. I had truth and evidence on my side. "The ball's in their court now," I told Olivia over the phone that evening. "But something tells me they're not going to make the right choice." And I was right. The 48-hour deadline came and went. As expected, my family chose pride over honesty. Instead of signing the confession, they tried to destroy evidence, closing accounts, shredding documents, pressured Margaret to retract her statement, even reached out to Olivia, trying to threaten her into backing off. But they had no idea. I'd already submitted everything to the authorities. The morning after the deadline, I formally filed charges. By afternoon, the police were at their doors with search warrants. I watched from my office as the news unfolded. My father, Richard, was escorted from his workplace in handcuffs. Emily's yoga studio, the one she had built with stolen money, was seized as an asset. My mother, Linda, who had spent years curating her social media image, was arrested mid-charity event. The family group chat exploded again, but this time with a very different tone. Relatives who had dismissed my claims were suddenly silent. And then the local newspaper ran a front-page story. Prominent families fall from grace, financial fraud, and betrayal exposed. Years of maintaining a perfect public image, destroyed in a single day. Later that night, my phone buzzed. A text from Margaret. "You did the right thing. Your grandfather would be proud." She was right. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about justice. As I watched their carefully constructed lies unravel, I felt no joy, only relief. The truth was finally out, and I was finally free. 1 year later, I sat in my new home in Portland, watching the snow fall outside my window. The court case had concluded months ago. My father and mother both took plea deals, agreeing to pay restitution. Emily's yoga empire collapsed. She now worked as a receptionist. The perfect family image they had spent so long protecting. Gone forever. Most of my relatives, the ones who had enabled their behavior, stopped speaking to me. But surprisingly, I didn't miss them. Instead, I had built a new support system. Genuine friends who valued honesty over appearances, colleagues who respected my work ethic, even a few distant cousins who reached out to apologize for the past. Last week, Margaret came to visit. Over coffee, she handed me an old photo album she had found while cleaning out her office. Inside were pictures of my grandfather and me, moments I had almost forgotten. In one photo, he was teaching me to fish, both of us laughing. Margaret smiled. He always said you were the strong one. He knew they favored Emily, but he believed you would overcome it. I traced my fingers over the photograph, remembering his kind smile. He had tried to protect my future through that inheritance. And though it had taken years, his final gift had given me something far more valuable than money: the courage to stand up for myself and the freedom to build a life on my own terms. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting free. Margaret smiled softly as she closed the photo album. He always said you were the strong one, she told me. He knew they favored Emily, but he believed you would overcome it. I traced my fingers over the photograph, remembering my grandfather's kind smile. He had tried to protect my future through that inheritance, ensuring I had the means to build a life for myself. And though it had taken years for the truth to come to light, his final gift had given me something far more valuable than money: the courage to stand up for myself, the freedom to walk away from people who never truly cared for me, and most importantly, the chance to start over on my own terms. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's about getting free.